All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. So, if you are interested to find out, if you want to know what's going to happen to Tesla in North America, one thing you can do is take a look at what's happening in Tesla in China. So, some new information has come out, and we can see and compare and find out what we think is going to happen. The other big topic today are batteries. There's some good information that's going on, and some that might not be as good, but we'll have our Amy joining us today, and we're going to have Amy explain to us a little bit more of what she thinks is happening. And she's been studying and doing deep dives on Tesla energy and batteries. So it's a perfect person for us to ask. Welcome, Amy. Thank you for joining me again.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you again. I appreciate this. This is perfect timing, as always. I love it. We're going to get your information on the battery scenario. So let's start talking about China first. So, this is a great tweet by Alex Voigt. He said, "What happens in China will happen in North America and Europe." And he attached this great chart that says the ice age is ending in China. So, it's a table that shows from 2014 to 2023. And what we're seeing here is in the light kind of color here in the columns, that is the gas cars. And then the blue is the new energy vehicles, which includes batteries as well as the hybrids, as well as the fuel cells. And so you can see that the ICE cars peaked in 2017, and it's gradually initially and then a fast decline as it heads to 2022. So the gas cars fell by 6.6%. In the same years, you can see that the new energy vehicles grew by 54% from 2017 to 2023. So clearly, there is an absolute trend here. And of course, they're ahead of the US because of their regulations that they added, incentives that they added. So this is a good sign to what's going to come to us. And we're probably around here, right, Amy? I mean, like, we're probably around the 3% mark in the US. So,
Yeah, I completely agree. It's what we're seeing in China now is they are through the early adopter stage and moving into mass adoption where people have decided that their next car is going to be an EV and now the question is just which EV. And so that's a very different stage than when Tesla was thought to be just a niche product that would only appeal to a few. When Tesla is stacked up is an obvious choice, you were just going to see a complete change in adoptions. Like it will be EVs hitting the next phase of rapid growth and rapid expansion.
yeah. And one slide that I absolutely love, you and I have been repeatedly showing it. I wish I had actually showed it again. One thing that we love to show is that in China, people don't believe this, but we've got the table and the stats that
Mhm.
Tesla is the number one car being sold today. More Teslas, Tesla Model Y specifically, than any other Chinese cars being bought by the Chinese market. And this is regardless of like the whether it's ICE vehicles or EVs, whether it's like a premium brand or the cheap brands, it's Tesla all the way. So it again is another sign that what happens to China is going to happen here as well.
Yeah, it's a really good sign. Like Model Y, very much on track, barring macro shocks, to be the number one selling vehicle in the world, which is just going to be a complete moment of maturity of Tesla and EVs as a product, and that's going to raise a lot of attention. I mean, that's like going to be a very good and effective form of advertising when people realize this is the number one selling car in the world. Then they're going to be then for sure they will check that out and go looking for the stats if they're looking at buying a car to see what made it so popular.
Yeah, the other thing that I think I liked about that table was you're seeing that the growth of the electric vehicles is like 50%, and that's the same thing happening here as well. And this is during a macro environment that's depressed. I just can't wait to happen when this all turns, if not even this year, but let's say next year or following, when it starts turning and become back to a boom economy. Uh, it's just gonna skyrocket even more. So it's quite exciting for me.
Yeah, I agree. Totally exciting,
So
especially
this is something
following it as
you
long as we have been.
Yeah, we we've been following it quite a bit. You've shown me this before. You've been explaining to me, but I love this photo that one of the Chinese Twitter users shared. And what they said to us here, what they're showing to us is that the Tesla factory in Shanghai is very, very close to the CATL factory in Shanghai. Like super, super close.
Yeah.
And
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 the
yeah.
Chinese media has announced that there
Mm.
is a deal between Tesla and cattle, but it's not something that Tesla themselves, as far as I'm aware, have announced.
That's all
Um,
right.
but cattle did, and that the deal was going to be for the BYD. I mean, not the BYD, the cattle Keelan, if that's how it's pronounced,
Right.
QILIN, battery, which is an LFP battery and a structural pack battery, which would allow at least a casting, if not dual castings.
Okay. So you're saying CATL announced that, but Tesla hasn't confirmed it yet. But
Chinese media has announced it.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
yeah.
Chinese media. Okay. You're full of good information. Thank you, Amy. So this is Wu Wa. We've been following him. He's been a very good, reliable source for Chinese information about Tesla. And so he's the one that shared this view showing the location of Tesla's Shanghai factory and the CITL factory. Um, yeah, so that's where it came from. And then Tesla Economist said this, which is 80 to 100 gigawatt hour additional cell battery production next door. Looks like someone wants to expand. That's
Yeah.
Tesla, of course. And then his theory, tell me if you think it's right, Tesla replaces Shanghai models with structural. This is what you just said. CITL
Yeah.
QLN batteries, M3, M3P cells, and the LFP cells go into megapacks. Okay, so you just said
Yeah.
something like this. Okay, go ahead.
Well, and that the important thing here is the both the form factors. So, by adding the manganese, that's what's in the M3P, they're able with the LFP battery to make it a higher performing battery. So it gets extended range and it gets extended cycle life by doing that, and it's at the same cost. So that there Cattle is very excited about the potential of that battery. It can bring it up to 700,000 miles of lifetime range, which is or a million kilometers of range. So that's a really long life
Yeah.
car for a car that's going to come in at an inexpensive price point, and that will be very compelling.
Amy, can you just, from your perspective, because you've been doing such deep dives on this, are we kind of not, um, regular Joes like me are not appreciating the improvements in battery technology? Like, has it been going continuously improving over time? And it just sounds like what you've just said, there's something we're missing.
Yeah, and I think that people don't understand the difference in battery performance. It's a really, really good question, Herbert. They don't understand the difference in battery performance based on the chemistries that you use inside the batteries. And a lot of these, like a 4680, if that's just a measurement and it's the size of the can of the battery, and Tesla is going to be able to put many battery chemistries within the
Okay.
4680. And Tesla has come out with a chart on which models they are going to use nickel
Mhm.
in and lithium, which are going to be the high performance models, and then which ones they intend to be LFP, which is a cheaper battery, but also can have a much longer cycle life. So it's the the choice of materials, and Tesla is unbelievably good at material science. It's one of those other things that they don't get credit for. But which materials and which chemistries that you use and fit it to the use and the function of the product is really important. And that's one of the ways that you can make sure that people aren't overpaying, but getting the exact performance and product lifespan that they desire. So there's been so many increases in battery advancements that have been coming out. So BYD has their Blade battery. It's a structural pack battery as well. The 4680 will be a structural pack battery, and then Cattle's M3P battery will also be a structural pack battery. And so these also allow like I said, the castings,
Yeah.
so that it dramatically reduces parts in the car. If you reduce the parts in the weight of the car, then you can use a battery that's not quite as dense or large of a battery, so that reduces cost. The advancements are coming fast and furious in the battery space.
Exactly. So I'm expecting more margin compression or margin improvements. It's going to be great.
Exactly, exactly. Well said.
So, all right. Well, so another bit of news staying in China is, we've been hearing about this Tesla Model 3, the revised Model 3. Some people are calling it the Highland project. And, we saw photos of this, spy photos of it that came out, that it's rumors that it's going to be mass produced in Shanghai factory just a few days ago. Someone from China said that there's rumors that they're actually going to do a pilot production line in June, but as soon as that leaked, then Tesla China denied the authenticity of that news to the media. So that happened yesterday, with China said no. And of course, we've heard Tesla China deny this, deny a bunch of things before that turned out to be true, what the rumors were. So they don't want this to come out. But I haven't asked you yet, Amy. So what was your thinking about, first of all, the next generation Model 3 and then this rumor?
I think that Tesla China gets a little bit of bad rap because I think that what they're saying is false is like an interpretation. Like
Mm,
when we know that when they people said, "Oh, they're slowing production because of demand," they were actually making production line improvements. So when Tesla China denied that, they're denying that we're in a slowing production for demand. They're saying we're
right.
making improvements to the line, but they don't
Mm,
often issue or expound upon the reason for their denials. It is very expensive to upgrade or refresh a model. But it is hard to believe, given the inefficiencies that we know are still in the Model 3 production, because that was the first, Tesla's first car that they did in mass production, and they kind of had to back off on many of their ambitions of the way they wanted to produce the car just to get it ramped. That
right.
Tesla wouldn't want to go back and put in some of those production efficiencies, many of which they were able to put in the Model Y. So if they can get a battery pack that's a structural pack, and then be able to use the castings in a Model 3, then that reduces parts, it reduces weights, it ups performance, it makes the production cheaper, and that may offset the very expensive cost of taking down a production line to do a refresh. So I think there's a lot of credence to the idea that Tesla it's very difficult for Tesla to not keep innovating and to not keep driving down the cost of production. And that I think it's going to be hard to hold back their engineers from saying, but we can make it so much better.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's pretty obvious or logical that they're going to do a revised Model 3. We have seen the photos. I don't know if you heard this. Another rumor, not just a
Hmm.
rumor, but somebody said that I think they think that this revised Model 3 won't have the front casting. And because they do that way, they're able to not have to shut down a production line. And they're able to
Yeah.
just do kind of a quicker way. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was going to say is that Tesla is smart enough to figure out how do we upgrade our product. I mean, their continuous drive, and you heard this over and over again at
Right.
Investor Day. I 100% agree with what you just said. Is to just be smart about the way that they upgrade the product, and they've made like over 30 changes, I believe, to the
Mhm.
Model Y since they started production. Just small changes along the production line, continuously improving the product. But I mean, if we have seen photos, like maybe those are just with AI and really good CGI, and you never know,
Yeah,
but it looked legit.
people have said that they don't think it's photoshopped or AI, but yeah, okay. So I
Yeah,
think many of us are believing this rumor is going to be
I
true.
know.
So we'll see.
I
Yeah,
believe it, but I am unwilling to speak on behalf of Tesla.
right. Yeah, of course. I love it. Thank you for your feedback there. So staying with China some more. So this is Berlin Energy, and he gave us some more information on the deliveries in April. And basically, it's what we have expected, which is the Model Y in is the best first month of a quarter in China, the best first month of a quarter ever. And then the Model 3 is the second best first month of the quarter ever. And then the total of 39,956 is the best first month quarter ever total. Um, so this is a nice tables that he's showing a graph here. So this is the Model Y, and the what is it here? The first month of the quarter is in white, second month and the third month are in yellow. Yeah, in yellow.
Yeah.
So you can see that the white here in April is better than all the first month of every quarter. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just another sign that we're going to be headed towards a record quarter in China. It's looking good. This is deliveries. We're talking about sales. This is Model 3. And again, I think he said it's the second best month of the quarter. But look at it. It's looking like it's completely just obliterating the previous quarters, anyways. Yeah. So it's looking good, right?
It's a really good sign as we see Tesla just continue to ramp the production, and we really see the effect of the variable pricing and the price sensitivity of the Chinese market. We know they actually just raised prices slightly in China, and actually that also generated a bunch of sales with people feeling like, oh, it's going back up. So if I this is when I have to buy, or I'm going to miss out on the low end, I'm going to be kicking myself. So you can generate prices both with generate sales both with slightly lowering the prices, and then when you raise them, you're gonna get the people with a FOMO where people are like, "I don't wanna look back 2 years from now and wish I'd bought then." So, it was really interesting the the way that that actually worked out. It was different than people had thought might happen. They didn't really think that raising the price a couple $100 was going to start a bunch of sales, but it did.
I'm laughing like crazy right now. You know why I'm laughing? Because I give you so much credit for teaching me and our audience here. What 2 months ago, when the price cuts happened, you were
And
you
I
were
was like, "Why are you bringing this up?" Like,
you
"What
were
are you
you were
talking about?"
hammering home the idea of variable pricing. And you taught me that we have like a great episode where you we actually showed graphs and we showed
Yeah,
how Tesla matches it against the average sales price, and that they will, because they have that sophisticated software. You were saying that they're able to really know, and they'll just adjust the prices up or down. Meanwhile, we have almost the rest of the Tesla Twitter community and analysts going crazy about price cuts means demand is falling, or they'll continue to do price cuts. And you've been saying, no, they're going to lower price cuts, they're going to raise price cuts. And now people are going, oh, they raised the price cuts a little bit, or the prices again. That means it must be the bottom. And we're like, no, this is variable pricing.
yes,
They'll go up
exactly.
and yeah, but I
There's
just
no
loved
guarantee
it.
that it generates sales in both directions. So, and it's a managing,
Yeah.
it's the part of the studying the wave and the smoothing out the logistics, and Tesla's just relentless drive to take cost out of the system. So, there's a fallacy out there that Tesla has to sell an EV to every purchaser that wants an EV. Tesla doesn't need to do that. Tesla just needs to sell every EV that Tesla makes, and that's a very different proposition. If you keep that in mind, the way you look at competition becomes different, the way you look at pricing becomes different, and then Tesla has to keep doing what they're doing, which is this relentless focus on engineering, on creating the best possible product out there for the most with the most efficient manufacturing process.
Can you speak to this concept of variable pricing? The idea that I can't believe it, but I keep hearing from smart people out there going, I don't like the variable pricing model. I wish that they could just do quarterly pricing. And I'm like, what? It makes so much sense that, Tesla's the only one that can do variable pricing at the minute level. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you be doing this? It makes sense. Can you just give your feedback on that?
And such a good question, Herbert.
Mhm.
It is very true that dealerships have always done this. So
Mhm.
the precedent in the industry and the way you sell an expensive product like a car, real estate also does this with houses. If you go into a large condo building and you ask to buy one of their units, they're going to give you different pricing incentives based on how many buyers they had come in that week to buy apartment units based on what the overall sellout rate is on that building. Anytime you're trying to sell a very expensive item, you change the prices around based on how many people you have coming through the door, what your available supply is. It's really smart business. And then when people are like, well, I need a fixed price. It is a fixed price for Tesla on the website. When you go and check it that day, that is the price that you're paying. Whereas if you go to a dealer, the
Mhm.
MSRP is almost definitively the one price that you will not pay when you go to the dealer,
That's
right?
right.
And it would be very difficult for you to go and query people walking out of the door of a Toyota dealership and ask them what they paid for their Toyota Corolla and find 10 people that paid even
Yeah.
remotely the same price in different dealerships in different
Right.
cities. And some of that's not even represented in what's being shown because
Right.
there's dealer incentives don't go in the charts. So when the dealers do different types of incentives as a discount to the customers, those don't have to show up. So we know that dealerships were selling it average of 10% over the MSRP in the fall, but now they're selling it at a discount to the MSRP in the spring. And that's been getting press in auto journals or industry newsletters, but it's not really getting press in the mainstream media, which you would think that would be relevant because I think it's very relevant.
Yeah. I love it, Amy. So the viewers of this channel who's been with us watching Amy in this episodes that we've been doing, you will remember, you'll know that it was Amy that was talking about, variable pricing, and you were proven correct. And what's happening now is exactly what you were saying, and hopefully more people will understand that variable pricing is a smart thing, the best thing a company could ever be doing, and it doesn't mean necessarily that the world is falling. They're just reacting, and in fact, I'd rather have a company that reacts at kind of that minute by day level than
The lagging
setting for
indicators. I mean, that's the deal.
it's
What
crazy,
Legacy is dealing with is
right? They don't.
exactly it's the lagging indicator of getting feedback
Yeah,
only from the dealerships later that, hey, we've been having to offer a lot of discounts to move the product, and they're not having any opportunity to drive the price down or early heads up and warning.
right.
Whereas Elon Musk with Tesla was talking well in advance. First, when he was seeing the inflation over COVID and the supply shocks going on, and Tesla was very nimble and agile in like managing the semiconductor shortage, because the Tesla's data is so much better. But when that was
Mhm.
happening, Tesla was using variable pricing to raise the prices as demand was spiking and skyrocketing. Tesla
Nobody was
didn't leave
complaining
an
then.
extra dollar on the table. They were raising the prices,
That's fine.
they were matching the product, and they were keeping record profits going during that period of high
Yeah.
demand. Now they're keeping record volume going in an area where everyone else we're hearing people talk about backing off production, slowing production. And when you have the economic boom that always comes after a
Mhm.
slowdown in the economy, others will not be prepared to capitalize on it. It's almost like Tesla is just deferring a little bit of profit from now
Mhm.
because they're ramping this production capacity, knowing the demand is going to be through the roof even maybe this time next year, and only Tesla is going to have the factories in place, the production machines in place, the supply chain in place, the employees in place, and be able to capitalize on it. I mean, it makes me really excited to see what Tesla is doing and how they're managing their way through a really challenging time.
Me too, as you know. I love
Yes,
talking. We both
we agree.
love volume versus margin, and there's all people
Yeah,
that we're debating with, and I just don't understand. But okay, I'm
yeah, but
learning.
if you have a short-term trading focus, it is not
Yeah.
an unlegitimate focus. It's just a
Mm.
different focus. But eventually, you have to look at the long-term health of the company,
Mhm.
and the multiple is really based upon growth. So, if you want to see a sustained hit
Good
to
point.
the stock price, which I
Yep.
hate talking about stock price, but if you want to see a sustained hit to the stock price, get a compressed multiple because people don't believe the growth's going to be there. And that's not going to
And
be
then
a short-term
surprise.
hit, that's going to be a very long term hit and it might never go back to a high multiple. So Tesla is a high rapid growth company. And that is why I'm invested in it as a very long term investor, is because what I believe Tesla is going to do over time is continue massive exponential growth at scale and volumes that people haven't really seen. And I'm watching the pieces and I track it. I don't just believe what management says. I watch the pieces and I track them fall into place, these supply deals, the factory announcements, everything that's going to be needed to get to that next phase.
I love it. Okay, Amy. Talking about expansion, so we're seeing sales of Model S and X in Korea. The vehicles will be delivered to South Korea in June, and then there's this person who had a Korean tweet, but luckily Amy translated it. So let me read what you said or what that person said. On Tesla manufacturing, if you want to run a steady and profitable manufacturing business, the first consideration is productivity. And the second consideration is also productivity. The ability to produce many more good products per unit time compared to competitors is the most important advantage that a manufacturer can have. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is from Andy. Andy has some really great insights. He was also the one that spotted that South Korea has multiple free trade agreements around the world. I
Right.
get a lot of good information from Andy. The whole South Korean retail investor community, it's large and very. They track the stock
Mhm.
very closely, and they have a lot of really good information that's going on. So I follow quite a few of them, and I Google Translate is my best friend. But what he says here is so true and interesting, and we tend to. I mean, it's we all know it's a machine that builds the machine, but he lays out here why that is so important. That if you are producing productively a better product more consistently than your competitors, that's everything. That's what gets you. Jeff Lutz talks a lot about the economies of scale and how much it costs you to not operate a factory at the planned utilization. That it's not as simple as just like saying, "Oh, the economy is slowing, so we're just going to produce a few less cars for a while." The costs for that are exponentially greater per car to produce it because you're not operating the factory at the rate that you intended. So the suite goes to some of those ideas. And it just
Mhm.
goes to the idea of Tesla's ability to productively manufacture is just this enormous advantage that's going to be appreciated more and more over time as they introduce products like the Cybertruck and as the whatever they do with the Model 3. And there's many areas of, and then we're down the road, are we gonna Optimus? Like, we have a lot of other things in the pipeline.
Yeah. You're right about Korea. For some reason, there's a lot of Tesla investors in Korea. At least I think so, because even my own followers, I have a lot. And you know how I
Mhm.
create my milestone list? There is someone in Korea that takes it and translates it to Korean, and then they share it out there. So I don't see that in any other languages. And
No,
I'm like, something's
they have
yeah.
a really, really good retail investing community for sure,
I
with
can't wait.
lots of really great information that I like
Yeah,
to
I can't
read.
wait until they do South Korea. So South Korea Gigafactory. Okay, let's move
Yeah.
on to other news here. So we did hear yesterday the Panasonic said that they're going to delay the production of the 4680 battery cells that they had in partnership with Tesla. They're going to delay it from a year. So initially it was supposed to be happening now, April of 2024, and it's going to be pushed to next year. Or sorry, April 2023. It's going to be pushed to April 2024. Um, so this came from an article though that said that Tesla makes 4680 batteries in their its own factories. First of all, California and Texas, and they said that they're producing 1,000 cars per week already at the end of 2022. That's 1/5 of the annual production capacity at its Texas factory. Oops, we lose you, Amy. I'll keep reading this. We lost Amy. So then but there's other suppliers. LG Energy said last month that it planned to set up a new 4680 production line at its domestic factory by the end of this year. They did not say when the batteries would start volume production. So there's other factors that do it. And then this is Gordon Gizigi of the Limiting Factor. He said that I don't think this is necessarily a good thing or bad thing, but with the reduction in 4 to 680. I wonder what he meant by that. And so we'll ask Amy when she gets back here. There could be positive reasons for that.
Yeah, so, like, this is going back to what we've been talking about, and that is that Tesla is amazing at supply chain management. And what they're doing is they're diversifying
Yeah.
between suppliers by they're trying to localize supply next to the factories, and and as we talked about earlier, there's many different battery chemistries and form factors out there.
Hmm.
So they're also diversifying and being able and flexible and agile to use different batteries from different suppliers. So we have no announcements yet about using BYD Blade, but there's rumors that it's possibly starting that the Blade battery is going to be used in Giga Berlin and that the Cattle battery is going to be used in Shanghai. And we don't know what Panasonic is working on. So
Hmm.
is it going to be a 2170? Is it going to be a 4680 with LFP chemistry? Um, but I am sure that what it is going to be cutting edge and very suited and appropriate for the Gen 3 platform vehicle. So they have time to be able to match that battery chemistry and the product to the Gen 3. And I would suspect that that's a little bit of what's happening here. And that in the meantime, they had to, Panasonic is very, very good at producing 2170s. And they might be doing that. Now, when you look at the 4680, it's not just the 4680 form factor because that is, like I said before, just the size. It's the fact that Tesla is using that dry battery electrode process, which is not a solid state battery.
Hmm.
It still uses wet electrolytes. But by using the dry battery electrode process, they remove many, many, many steps in the manufacturing. Now, when you look at their suppliers aren't using a dry battery electrode process, at least right now. So they're not getting that extra cost savings and
I see.
efficiency that Tesla
Mhm.
is from that battery. So they would have to look at it a little bit more of how are we going to make this competitive at scale? Is this the way we want to go? And then they have the specs. I'm positive because there's a long lead time on a new product for what Tesla is looking for on the Gen 3 platform.
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, like again, you have been sharing this information with me for the last several months, where Tesla, because of their foresight, they've been already making moves and partnerships with all sorts of products and supplies. But in the batteries, here they have their own factories that are doing it. They've got these partnerships with multiple vendors. And so, yes, it may sound like it's a bad news with Panasonic delaying, but it also may not be. And that's why Jordan from Limiting Factor said he's not. He's going to reserve his opinion at this point.
And he
Um,
is the expert. So like
he is,
I
yeah.
I tend to believe what Jordan comes up with. He's coming up with a big report on lithium that I'm going to be
Ooh,
really interested
yeah.
in reading. I think he and I are slightly different on that. He sees more constraints and challenges. I don't think I said I don't see constraints and challenges. I just think that I have more faith in Tesla's ability to map them and more faith in the fact that suppliers see Tesla as like the whale and the client that they're going to keep happy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about the lithium refinery factory, of course, and
Yeah.
they've said that they're feeling confident that they can do it. First of all, faster in 2 years, and secondly, they talked about all these new technology that they've created. So there's possibility what you're saying may turn out. So here's just another news that Tesla's this again came out yesterday. I don't know if it's timed properly or not, but
Yeah.
they said Tesla's moving forward with the Cater Road expansion of 4680, where 4680 cells happening. So this is Cater Roads in Fremont, and the research and development of 4680 happens there. They've filed for revisions to the expansion project. The materials lab has been undergoing modifications since 2021. Da, 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 is ramping up manufacturing of the cell to accommodate its appearance in vehicles. We lost Amy again. She'll be coming back shortly.
Yeah, it's the 4680 production. It is there. I see some speculation online. It is automated. I mean, I saw it. It is an automated production line. What they're managing now though is just to yield and repeatability. So that's where they are in the ramp right now. And their goal is to be able to produce an enormous amount of battery cells themselves. but they're still going to need every single cell that a supplier produces too. So you're seeing Tesla's continuing belief, and they have better data than anyone else, that this
Mhm.
4680 ramp is getting close to completion, because they were only going to really start expanding out these other factories when they
Mhm.
were confident with the process, right? We've heard that
Wow.
before. So the fact that
Mhm.
they're willing to expand Cato Road, that says to me a lot about where they are in the yield factor fastest. The last we heard, I don't know if anyone else has heard another number, but that it was 1,000, equivalent to 1,000 cars a week in production that was coming out of Austin.
Mhm.
So I would imagine that that is significantly better. And they said that they were experiencing def- significant growth in ramp. And we know that they're doing Cato Road. We know that they have Austin, and they're growing, and they're going to do the whole Giga Nevada battery factory as well for 100 megawatt hours, gigawatt hours,
Wow, that's a
gigawatt hours.
yeah, that's another bit of info that you just shared that I didn't know. Right. Okay, so another bit of information here from Tesla Info. They talked about spotting a Tesla in Tesla Canada, a different MYP. The internal model code is now for a China-built car with the LG battery, not a Fremont-built car with the Panasonic battery. What was your thinking when you saw this, Amy?
We knew there was a deal that they were going to be sending approximately 8,000 cars from Giga Shanghai to Canada,
Right.
and that they were going to be the lower trim model that would be able to qualify for the Canadian EV tax credit. Um, so this is an example where having a nimble supply chain. It's not localized in this scenario, but they're bringing in cars from China that are able to be produced at a lower price point to be able to meet a demand in the market. And this is an advantage that Tesla is going to increasingly have as they start to build multiple gigafactories around the world, where they can match a product to a market very well. And it's also an example of using different battery chemistries and how you can change without sacrificing overly the performance of the vehicle, reduce the cost.
Yeah. So you then replied to that tweet with this. You said Tesla needs all the batteries Tesla can get. That is the only way to massive scale required by Master Plan 3. Interesting to watch the deals fall into place. So there's the internal 4680s, there's LG, Panasonic, Cattle LFPs, possibly Cattle M3Ps, BYD Blade. Supplier diversification is smart business. I like that you summarized all the partners as we've been talking about here.
Yeah. And then that's not even getting into the mineral suppliers that Tesla has. So the Tesla is diversifying in all parts of their supply chain. They're diversifying by having some cell suppliers, and the cell suppliers are largely going out and getting the lithium and the other battery chemistries themselves. And they have existing, and many of them are vertically integrated, might then even have mines and refining and different ability to get materials. Then Tesla has contracts with Albemarle, and Panasonic actually gets their some of their supplies through SQM, both of which, by the way, we I don't think we did talked about it, but
Mm,
Chile has nationalized lithium,
right. Mm,
and but they said that they're going to honor their deals with their suppliers and through 2030. So there is no immediate danger to Tesla there, because Tesla does have some large suppliers that are getting lithium from Chile. But that's an example of a risk that you face in the supply chain, and having the diversified supply chain and the ability to use different chemistries, even different battery structure, is going to be such a key component of how to put Tesla. You got to remember again that massive goal, 20 million vehicles before 2030. How does Tesla get there? And that list of battery suppliers that we just saw is going to be a very key component to doing that.
Yeah, talking about that. That's why I needed to bring this topic next, which is the lithium refinery groundbreaking. I know this is old news now. We shared this, and everybody's been all over this the last 2 days. But I wanted to get your feedback on this. So, lithium refinery was groundbreaking, and they said this facility will also prioritize the elimination of a challenging refinery byproduct, sodium sulfate. Instead, the byproduct is a mixture of sand and calcium carbonate, which is used for construction. In the future, we'll also process other intermediate lithium feedstocks, including those from recycled batteries and manufacturing scrap. And then JPR 007 said, um, the talk becomes a reality. Direct from hard rock spodumene to battery quality lithium hydroxide, 30% less process steps, no need for acid and caustic reagents, capacity to make 1 million EV batteries. So, again, they are reinventing lithium refinery, not just getting into it. So, I'm very curious what your reaction to the lithium refinery groundbreaking and what you learned about what they're doing there.
Yeah, and this wasn't surprising to me.
Yeah.
People that just look at the surface, they don't realize that there are many that like there's a lot of lithium out there, but not all lithium is capable of being battery grade, and not all lithium is capable. And this is when Jordan does his deep dive into lithium that's coming out. He's gonna, I'm sure, go in depth on this, but that depending on how where the lithium is, the the processing of it is very different, and we knew that this was going to be a refinery to start with for the hard rock. So this is were largely mined in places like Australia, and there is a hard rock deposits where the lithium is in the it was in the rock, and that tends to be a very high battery grade that comes out from it. But the interesting note there is that when Tesla says that they will be using other feedstocks in the future, including recycling of batteries and then refining that recycled product. So some of the technologies that you look at is remember when we talked about that large GM deal for the McDermott for lithium out of the McDermott caldera. That wasn't lithium in rock. That's lithium in clay. So that needs to be refined differently. And then there's also lithium. There's a lithium valley that is getting a lot of press lately in California, and that's a lithium that's in the geothermal, and that would have to be done in one of those new product processes called DLE, or direct lithium extraction. There's also another one called direct lithium to product, and so these other areas where lithium could be available, we anticipate that Tesla's refinery will also move to being able to process those at some point. Um, we also know that they just announced a new battery lab in Sparks that's going and lithium lab that's going to be looking into first principles application to refining these other sources of lithium, and it's done in a different process. The other interesting thing about the hard rock is many of the lithium mines that were out there, they have the tailings pile of the rock that they didn't use. And in times of short supply, they have just shipped those piles of rocks to a refinery and been able to make up for the difference between the time it takes to put a mine online and the current demand. So the fact that Tesla now has their own refinery
Mhm.
capable of going and getting, it's called a brownfield, getting brownfield supplies and bringing it in and processing it in a manner that's 30% less expensive. Now all of a sudden this lithium is very economically feasible and useful to produce, and it really will divorce Tesla from the
Mhm.
ability right now. It's almost a little bit OPEC like, where suppliers can reduce the production of lithium to keep the cost up. But if Tesla has the ability to go out and get lithium from the brownfields, and if they have the ability to start localizing lithium to next to their factories, that's going to take away a little bit of the price manipulation, while the demand
Mhm.
for lithium is so strong that anyone that goes in and decides to do a lithium mine is really guaranteed a very good and sustainable profit for several decades.
Oh my gosh, this is good. We could spend a whole hour just talking about your reaction to the lithium refiner. I'm glad that I got that info from you. So,
Yeah.
last topic. I know we're running out of time here, and we have been having issues with your phone crashing, and so that's why I'm kind of trying to rush
It's
here.
not my
Is
phone, it's the app.
Oh, it's the app. Yeah, sorry, it's not your phone. And so, the last topic here is last night, Kathy Wood was on being interviewed, and she was being asked about this FSD beta. And this interviewer was kind of very already coming in with a very negative perspective. I'm going to play this 3.5 minute video of the interview, and I just love the way that Kathy Wood answered it. Elon Musk, of course, reacted to this, saying Kathy's awesome, interviewer less so. So let's go ahead and watch this 3 minute episode, because I think it's worthwhile to listen to her answer.
Getting Autopilot, possibility could be even taking it off the road during a recall. As an investor, does that concern you? I mean, Autopilot is basically the Tesla promise, it's the magic, it's the vision. How monumentally bad would that be? Are you concerned?
No, we're not. So first, I want to give all credit to our analysts, Tasha Keeney, Sam Corris, and Daniel McGuire, who just joined us. And they have put together our new Tesla model, I mean, the updated Tesla model, which has gotten some publicity. The target price for 2027 now is $2,400, and we're at $170. And most of that, a good part of that, is Autopilot. In Tesla's Investor Day, which Tasha and Sam attended, uh, we learned, they brought out data, disclosed data, which showed that a Tesla car with full self-driving is 6 times safer than the average car on the road. It has one accident every 3.2 million miles, whereas the average car has one accident every 500,000 miles. If you were to compare the new Tesla FSD with those, the ones that didn't have that or don't have that capability, um, it's 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 6 times safer than the average car, 5 times safer than the old Tesla cars. Now, if there's one thing the National Highway and Safety Transportation Association, NHTSA, needs to pay attention to, it is fatalities. We've had decades of fatalities in autos coming down since the safety driving measures, safety belts and so forth, started upon the scene in the 70s. It went down practically. I'm not sure where the peak was, but it was at least double where it is now. It dropped to 35,000 around the time we started ARC, and or to 30,000, and now it's back to 45,000. That is just in the last 8 years. Why is it? It's because of texting and cell phones and so forth. That is their mission. They need to make the roads safer. And one thing I know, every time they examine a fatality, why don't they examine all the other fatalities out there on the road? The ones that kill 45,000 people a year. You only hear about Teslas. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, when they examine those fatalities, well, most of the time, the majority of the time, they conclude that it is the driver's fault. There's so much monitoring, so many sensors within the car. And they come up with yet another metric that says, you know what? Tesla cars are safer than most cars out there.
But people have gotten into crashes while on autopilot because they're doing other things and not paying attention.
Well, they're supposed to be. I mean, if you've used Autopilot, you know you have to be paying attention. You have to, and they tell you you have to. It is this last upgrade. I'm glad they beep at you and just make you put your hands on the wheel and keep focused. This last upgrade is pretty astonishing, though.
Wow, Amy. So that's the first time you saw that, right?
Yes, it
What's your
is.
reaction to it? Yeah.
My reaction is, first off, I think that Kathy Wood is exceptional in her clarity and her ability to go to the thing that matters the most. The thing that matters the most that people just somehow keep forgetting, or they're being influenced by short sellers and FUD without even realizing it, is the amount of lives that full self-driving is going to save, and that you don't even have to be in a car for it to save your life. I mean, we know, unfortunately, JB Strobel's wife was killed when a driver crossed the lane Sunday morning and hit her on her bike. If that car had had full self-driving, she would be alive right now. And it's unfortunately really sad considering that he was the founder of Tesla and this technology that Tesla is working on would have saved her. It's really sad. So if you look at and you don't unfortunately, you will never know that your life was saved, that your friend's life was saved, that your daughter's life was saved. It's just gonna be slow slowly and then fast. Traffic accidents and traffic deaths are gonna become very, very rare, and it's gonna be a complete change to society, and then you look at the utility and the mobility offered to people that don't have it right now, or the extra hours in the day. People that are taking public transportation to work, it certainly works to get them there, and they have utility and time, like, to read or do other things, but, between connections and waiting on a platform or whatever they have to do, they might be spending an extra hour a day that could now be freed up with robotaxis that take them direct to the destination. And you have areas where there wasn't good public transportation where robotaxis are going to be allowed. There was one thing that the interviewer did, and Kathy Wood knew it, but she ignored it because she was trying to focus on the most important information. And if you watch most of the FUD that's coming out, will say autopilot. They do not say FSD. So they're looking at very old software. They're not looking at anywhere near the new software, and they're conflating the two as if they're the same, and they're not even close to the same. Of course, we know FSD is beta, and one of the criticisms that Tesla gets right now is that these are supervised miles underneath FSD, where you have a driver they're capable of taking over. But that would be saying that that therefore negates the value of FSD, would be like saying that the fact that the autopilot in my airplane is a supervised autopilot by me, the pilot, makes it not valuable for safety. And I would say that's ridiculous because we have things like an automatic Mach trim compensator that if it sees that the airplane is entering this dangerous aerodynamic state, it automatically starts trimming the nose up to stop it quicker than a pilot could react. So there's very definitive safety features in airlines and airplanes used in airplanes that the public is very comfortable with, that they are aware that airplanes have been engineered to be much safer, but somehow they're not making that mental transference to why shouldn't then we be able to take a car, which is actually a simpler thing than an airplane, and also engineer that to be much safer. So I'm really excited about where full self driving is going, and we talked about the single stack too when we were off screen. That by going to the single stack, now Tesla has has a couple of huge benefits there. They're getting a lot of extra data because now all those times on the freeway is counting as well, and their engineering team does not no longer has to be maintaining two
Yeah.
systems. Now their engineering team can be focused on using all this extra data to query it for the edge cases and solve those. I'm getting ever more confident that we're going to see dramatic improvements very, very soon to a fully self-driving capable car, way quicker I think than anyone thinks.
Yeah. I think the misinformation is just crazy because, as she pointed out, as the data is showing today, don't have to wait for the future. Today, FSD is safer already, 6 times safer out there because it's supervised FSD. And if you're driving
Yes.
it, so why wouldn't you be more safer if you've got the 8 cameras plus you driving? And then, like she said, people there's a camera looking at your face if you're focused, and if it doesn't, it'll warn you, and then eventually turn it off and won't
And
let you
then
do this. And the camera.
exactly, and the
Mhm.
safety score takes a hit. So, Tesla's actually monitoring this, whereas all those people out
Yeah.
there on their cell phones that, as you very smartly pointed out, caused accident rates to rise aren't getting that same type of monitoring. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question that in every way, shape, or form, if I had a
Mhm.
teenager, I would want him in a Tesla to keep them safe
Yeah.
because they would have the safest car that's that's ever made where the Model S broke the machines. And then they have this advanced driver assist systems as
Yeah.
well to offset the mistakes that a teenage driver would make.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for your feedback there. Love it. Great information as always. Thank you. Folks, you should follow Amy on Twitter at SF underscore 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 Tahoe, Tahoe. Are you going to change your username now that there might be some more available or?
I just changed my profile picture and like and now I want to change it to another one taken that same day. And they blocked me until they like re-verify my blue check mark.
Right.
So like
You got to
every
wait.
time you make a change, you have to like wait weeks while they re-verify your check mark to be able to make the other change. Which, as long as you don't have a check mark up anyways, while they're waiting, I don't see why you can't just make another change and just go to the back of the queue. I don't
Yeah.
know. So
I'll
yeah,
put her.
I thought I was going to just change it, but now I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I
Just
wanna,
keep doing it. Yeah.
yeah, just
But
keep
for
going.
now, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
put her Twitter handle in the description. You can follow her. You can see it's just as brilliant information. Thank you again so much, Amy. Next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.